You're back, and so am I. Just me, the mic, and some thoughts that have been stretching out through the quiet. Today's solo episode is for anyone who has ever looked in the mirror and thought, is this who I am? Or just who I've gotten good at being? And as you might guess, I think a lot about signs, but not those metaphorical kind. I mean actual signs. Painted ones, neon ones, logos on windows, branding, the kind I grew up around. You see, my parents were entrepreneurs, and their work revolved around creating signs at the sign seller. The business of layout, color, spacing, font, and clarity. Every inch mattered. Even as a kid, I started to understand how something is presented shapes how it's seen. I didn't know it then, but that truth would follow me into journalism, into sport, into love, into every arena where presentation becomes performance. Add that to the only child thing. No sibling to mirror, to riff off, to hide behind. It was just me. My reflection in that mirror staring back. And I would look, often, not out of vanity, but pure curiosity, trying to understand what the world was seeing in me and what I was seeing in myself. That shaped a lot. It pushed me towards storytelling, towards the athleticism, toward every arena where expression and impression mattered. And it's been beautiful in so many ways. But it's also brought questions. So today, I'm exploring that. The art of the mask, the value of visibility, and the quiet courage of authenticity. Let's take a look in that mirror together. Presentation isn't just aesthetics. It's a system of survival, especially when you're in a high-performance space, on the court, on camera, on the ice, on the air. I've learned that the most curated version of myself doesn't show up when I'm bored. She shows up when I'm under pressure, when excellence is being demanded, when the lights are on. Sociologist Charles Horton Cooley had this idea. It was called the looking glass self, that we shape our identity based on how we think others perceive us. And once you start to believe that, you start to shape yourself for that reflection. In sport, in broadcasting, in relationships, I became very good at showing the version of myself that fit, that performed, that pleased. But if you're always adapting, when do you actually feel seen? Something shifted a day when I was in a therapy session, and my therapist said to me after the initial consult, "You are one of the best people I've ever met at being interviewed. But if you're not going to let me meet the real you, why are you here?" That cracked something open in me, because I didn't even realize I was performing. I thought I was being prepared, polished, but maybe there's a cost to always being on, and maybe presence without performance, that's a whole new kind of brave. So I've been reflecting, pun intended, on this. We all perform to something: an audience, a parent, a memory. Even when we think we're still being authentic, we're being shaped by who we think is watching. And I think that's where identity gets tricky. For me, I didn't grow up with siblings, so the mirror became this quiet witness. The only version of feedback I had for years was me watching me. I wasn't performing for applause. I was performing for clarity, for connection, for rightness. But there comes a point when you have to ask, who am I when I stop auditioning? I'd spent years fine-tuning a persona, a polished, high-functioning version of myself that could pass any test. But was I still there? Carl Jung called that external version of ourselves the persona. It's not fake, it's just curated, a part of us we show to meet the world's expectations, to belong, to succeed, to stay safe. But like psychologist Donald Winnicott said, that's the false self, and eventually it gets heavy. So the question became, who am I when I stop trying to impress you? Who do I become when I drop the script and let my voice crack a little, like it just did? Who am I when I let the paint run a little? Well, I'm still finding out, but here's what I do know. I feel more like myself when I'm not trying to be impressive, and maybe you felt that too. Take a minute. I want you to think back to when you were younger. Who were you performing for? Who made you feel seen? And who made you feel like you had to earn it? And now, what version of you are you trying to introduce to the world? Maybe jot it down, talk it out with someone, or just feel it. You may be surprised by what's underneath the surface polish. When I think of my dad painting signs, I can picture the deliberateness in each and every stroke, but I also remember sometimes the brush would drag, sometimes the paint would bleed a little. And you know what? I think that's when some magic happened. Growing up in the world of signage taught me how to present, but actually living, is way messier than layout and color theory. I still crave precision. I still want the lines to be clean, but I'm learning to let the brush drag a little. Journalism student and all, Marshall McLuhan once said, the medium is the message. And maybe that's true in life too. The way we show up is the story. So if you're in a moment right now where you feel the urge to perform, I want to gently ask, who taught you that mattered more than being real? Your life isn't a brand, it's a canvas. And you don't owe anyone polish, but you do owe yourself presence. I think there's this thing that we don't talk about enough. Being misunderstood isn't the same as being unseen. It's easy to think we need to clarify, explain, reshape ourselves to be palatable, but I've found more peace and more clarity in looking at myself through my own eyes, not someone else's. I now do my best to stop asking, how do I come across? And I've started asking more, does this feel like me? And the beautiful thing is, when I stop wearing those masks, I attract people who aren't afraid to drop theirs too. So much of this season of life is about alignment. And for me, alignment does not mean being consistent. It means being honest. So, dear listener, if you're hearing this and wondering whether you've gotten too good at being the on version of you, maybe this is your permission slip to soften. I see you. You don't have to abandon your strength. You just don't have to perform it anymore. You are not a product. You are a person, a work in motion, a living design. You were never meant to be a billboard. You're the whole damn landscape. So let the strokes be uneven. Let the colors bleed. And trust that what you're building still makes sense, even if it's not perfect. And if the people around you can't see the art in your in-between stage, then they're not your people. Because the ones who matter, they'll recognize the real you, even in pencil. And hey, if this episode's moved you at all, here's what I want you to do. Like it. Share it. Send it to that one friend who's been editing themselves a little too tightly. And if you haven't already, subscribe. It helps more people find their way to these stories and signs. Thank you, as always, for spending just a little bit of your day with me. This is There Were Signs. And just in case no one's told you lately, you're here for a reason.